All right, T&D session, training and development on client retention. Apologies for the headphones. They make the sound a lot better, so it's easier to hear me. So you'll have to bear with me looking a little bit silly. But I wanted to run through with you guys a little bit of how to keep clients for longer. And I'm a big believer that spending a fair bit of time on getting really good at keeping clients for long periods of time, I'm talking, like 5 years plus, is a really valuable thing to work on, because keeping clients for longer means you get better results out of them, you get more referrals from them. It means you don't have to do as much work to get new clients in all the time. So, the old bird in the hand saying is especially true here. And I was really lucky because, the last 10 years running the Vision Studio, I really had a good insight into everything that went into client programming and what each client did. I knew every set, rep, weight, exercise, time they visited, group exercise session, food they ate. I knew everything about every client, and I could always go in and look at, and I did regularly, how long each client stayed. And I also looked very carefully at each trainer's retention. And we had two really big stats that we looked at. And one was, how many clients do you have today that were here this time last year? And I'd encourage you to actually do that, is have a bit of a look at how many clients do you have with you today that were here a year ago. And we found that when that number was 60% and higher, things were going really well and growing. When that number got under 45%, then it was a real struggle to keep things up, and you had to really work hard. And so client retention, we call that 12-month retention, was really important. The other retention thing to look at is just the average stay of days. And if you've been there or been doing things for a while, just looking at how many average days a client stays with you. Now, you're always going to have the people that come and they go pretty quickly, and then you're always going to have the clients that stay forever. But just knowing what that average is, I think, is really important. And I got to dig down deep, because I had some trainers that had an average of like 500 days, some trainers that had an average of like 750 days, and then I had a couple of trainers over time that had an average of over 1,000 days. 1,069, I think, was one of the best ones. And that really tells me that the trainer that's got someone that stays for over 1,000 days is doing something different to the 500-day trainer. And I really spent a lot of time drilling into what that was. And I've got three main areas that I think that goes on. But I want to introduce you to, why clients start and why they stay with us aren't always the same thing. And so when a client starts, they want to get going with us, they get going, and then your mix of clients is always going to look a bit like this. Is you're always going to have a couple of clients that are just not going to stay for whatever reason, they're going to leave. You're going to have those couple of clients that no matter how poor of a job you do, even if you're having a bad day, they just love you so much, they're going to hang around forever. Love those clients. It's also really good not to be slack with those clients. It's easy to be slack because they're going to stay forever. But if you're good to them, those clients are really super duper valuable. But the question is, where are all these clients in the middle at any given time? And what I'd love to work on with everybody is trying to move everybody over as far as you can. Because what happens inevitably is shit happens in people's lives, whether that's, the entire country closing down, or it's just a speeding fine that comes in the mail. When things happen, it moves this go line over a little bit. And if you've got all your clients backed up over this side that are only kind of staying out of obligation or, not really committed to it, then if this go line moves all of a sudden, then they're out. Whereas if you've got everyone backed up against this line and they're really going to stay, even something as bad as an entire economy shutting down will convince people, as long as they've still got the money, to stay with you. And so I really looked back at and went through the data, and I did the vast majority of initial consultations at our studio, and I really got into why, or we asked the question, and you guys should definitely ask this question when you start any new client, which is, why do you want a personal trainer? It'll tell you a lot about what their expectations are early on. And we asked that question of everyone, and I did the vast majority, like over 90% of the initial consultations when someone came in. And I went back through all the paperwork and just had a look at what was the number one thing that most people said. And by far and away, it was one thing. But look, realistically, I saw 1, 2, 3, 4 things show up often, but the number one thing showed up more than double all the others combined. And the number one thing was accountability. People came to get a personal trainer because they wanted to be held accountable. Now, I'll dig into a little bit of how to hold someone accountable, because I think there's a real art to that, but holding someone accountable is the number one reason why they come to see a personal trainer. Number two is motivation. What you need to understand is you guys are weird. You're really fucking weird. And I say that in a loving way, because I'm one of the weirdos too. And we're so weird that not only do we love exercise and do it all the time, but we're so weird we made it our career, which is absolutely nuts. When you think about the vast majority of people in this country don't exercise at all, don't do sport, don't go to the gym, don't do anything. The vast majority, we're talking over 85% of the population, don't do anything. So even if you are an exerciser, you're already in the weird category, but then we're in that top 1% of weird, which we go regularly to exercise. And I even feel strange if I don't get exercise for a couple of days, and I'm sure you guys are the same. And so just understanding you're different to your clients. They're coming to see a personal trainer because they're not weird like you. They need that motivation. They need someone to keep them going, because it's easier not to do it. For us, it's almost like if we don't do it, we feel really crap, but we understand that. Most of our clients don't. The third one that I saw lots was knowledge. Wasn't anywhere near as high as the top two, but people want to learn from you. They want you to teach them things so that they can become better at it. You look at any newspaper or any clickbait on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, anywhere, online newspapers, their articles on health and fitness do amazingly well. People are interested, they want to learn. And the beauty is, it's a really confusing world out there, and there's a lot of contradicting info. And when you develop that relationship with them, that can be a real, for your clients, that can be a real thing where they believe you and they can really trust what you're saying, which I think is really important. And then lastly, the other big one was results. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. But what I believe they mean by results is they mean progress. So they want to see themselves improving every single week. There's nothing more frustrating than training, even if you're seeing a trainer or not, and not going anywhere. It's very demotivating. But if people are seeing results every single week, they're seeing a little bit of progress, they're more likely to come back, which is very important. Okay, so let's talk about when people start, what you need to do to really get them set up. And on the accountability front, I think all the prep you do before you start training really matters. I used to spend 45 minutes with clients during the sales process, getting them ready, and I would spend less time on worrying about trying to sell them personal training and more about trying to set themselves up as a really good client. Because then if they did join, I want them to be a really good client. And so with that, I'll go through some sales stuff with you guys in depth, but with that, part of that sales process is not promising everything. It's almost under promising and over delivering, so that when they actually get into the personal training, they really, really love it. But here's the top 5 most important things you need to do before you start with any client to get them set up for really great results. So definitely write these down. Number 1 is you need to set really good, specific, measurable goals. You cannot let your clients set broad, generalized goals that don't have a measurable outcome. So if a client says they want to get fitter or they want to lose weight or anything like that, you have to have a measurable thing, whether it's the scales, whether it's, not many clients in my experience like having their fat pinched and told how fat they are, but some clients do. So pinch testing, bias scanners, clothes, tape measurements, whatever, you have to have something that's measurable. If it's fitness, you got to ask them what their idea of fitness is, because my idea of fitness, your idea of fitness, and everyone else's idea of fitness are very different things. So you've got to really narrow down, okay, what is it that they mean by I want to get fitter? Does that mean, I used to ask the question, okay, so when you see yourself as reaching that goal and you're fit, what are you capable of doing that you're not able to do right now? It's a really good question to find out what that means to them. For some people, it's running, swimming, playing with their kids, whatever that might be. If they say playing with their kids, you go, right, well, okay, do you want to be able to outrun them still? How long do you want to be able to outrun them for? Do you want to be able to lift them up? And so you want to know what they are, or stronger, you want some actual numbers. I love the scales, not because they are a great, accurate measurement of what's going on, but what I love about them is they're simple, they're quick, and they give you a general idea of if you're heading in the right direction. Now, it's very important that you get really good around coaching with scales, because clients can do really well in a week on food and exercise and put on weight. Now, obviously, that can be really devastating if they don't understand that their body weight can fluctuate 2 kilos either way, so it could be up to a 4 kilo slide in water weight. So you could lose half a kilo in fat, which is an amazing amount of fat loss, by the way. Anyone who loses more than half a kilo of fat in a week, I'm shocked out of my mind by. But let's say you get on the scales, you could have lost half a kilo in fat and put on a kilo in water for a number of reasons, and you'll be half a kilo up on the scales. If you let that person walk away disappointed, then you're really doing them a disservice. And the same thing is they can eat shit, party on the weekend, and come back in, and because they're dehydrated from all the alcohol they drunk, they come in, they're like 700 grams down, where they've probably put on 300 grams of fat because they were eating crap all weekend. So managing that and coaching around that is very important, but if you're good at that, the scales are a great tool. So setting really good, specific, measurable goals is critical. Too many trainers let their clients off with really shit general goals. Number 2, really clear expectations. I'm a big proponent when you're setting this up with your clients of setting them up with really clear expectations of what you expect from them in communication, in attendance, in attitude, in everything. I want you to set that up early with them. So tell them they need to bring stuff up with you. They need to reply to messages. They need to do things, whatever it might be. If it's you expect them to keep a food diary, lay that out initially. Even if you think that's a bit scary and it might scare some people off, you want to do that. And I guarantee you, when your clients get their expectations laid out, they're never more motivated than what they are right now when they step up to ask you. And so setting those expectations out, if they're not prepared to go for them now, Jesus, they're going to be terrible clients later. Number 3, is agree on consequences. I love having consequences for my clients, and I generally don't work on consequences from outcomes, like if you put on or you don't lose this week, so on and so forth. I like consequences from actions. So, you're going to do a food diary. If you don't have the food diary done, here's the consequence. I had a really brutal 30-minute rower workout, which just sucked. And that was one of my consequences. But and I do that on actions. If a client's really good at food and exercise and knows how to manipulate things, which, I had a few clients who got like that after 5 or 6 years, then I'd let them set all right, if I don't lose half a kilo this week, here's the consequence kind of thing. But I wouldn't do that to most clients. I'd set more activity goals. So get them on their Apple Watch and give them a total number of minutes of exercise they need to get done in the week, or so many visits into the club or classes, or food diary, or walking steps, or anything like that. But have really good consequences set up for that. Very important when you do consequences that you work out what to do, because here's the thing: is if someone is here now and here's their goal, weight loss journeys don't look like that. They look like this. And so having a setup with your client to really prepare for this stuff, I think, is really valuable. And so one thing that I often ask, and I encourage you to write this question down, is if I was the greatest coach in the world and I knew you inside out, what would I say to you when you have setback, whatever that setback might be? And if you identify those things early, like, I love the alcohol and I'm going to struggle getting off it, especially on the weekends. Or, I froth. I love a pie. God damn it, I love a pie, especially Main Beach Bakery, chicken and leek pie. Ooh. Or a hamburger or chocolate at the checkout at Coles, whatever it is. You really want to set up what that is, and then you want to ask them, okay, so if I was the best coach in the world who knew you really well, and I knew you were going past the Main Beach Bakery next Sunday after you went to the beach, what would I say to you to keep you focused so that you don't fall off the wagon at that point? And have that chat with them early. I think that's really, really important. The other thing I always do on consequences, that last point is more about fail setting, which is actually preparing for these bumps in the road. And if you don't actually take the time to prepare for the bumps, your client might have an expectation that it's smooth sailing, or might not know what to do with these crappy things where they put on weight, or their training goes bad, or they get busy at work, or whatever it might be. So your job is to actually do some, instead of goal setting, fail setting with them, which is, okay, when this happens, here's how we're going to deal with it, kind of thing. And ask them. So between now and our next check-in, so I had regular check-ins, we did 9 weeks. We've got an 8-week challenge coming up. I'd encourage you guys to work out a regular schedule where you sit back down and do this stuff again. 8-9 weeks is a good time. 12 weeks is good too. Maybe getting on alongside, but something like that where you can go, all right, we're going to sit back down and reassess again in this time. I think not doing that is setting your client up just to get in the routine of monotony and just training, and that's when they start heading back towards the go side. So sit back down with them every 8, 9, 10 weeks and reassess where you're at. But doing the fail setting is really, really important. And then the last one that I think is super duper valuable, and I think you need to do at the beginning and every single session, is you want to do their importance and their confidence out of 10. And so what I do with a client every single week is on weigh-in day, or whatever day of the week you want to work it on, is I'd set them a little goal and go, all right, this week your goal is to fill out a food diary. A couple of my favorite ones was like do 1,000 push-ups in a week. That was always fun with some of the guys, or squats or steps or whatever it might be, and give them a little goal to do. Food diaries, prepare your meals for work, whatever it might be. Ask for photographic proof of stuff. And especially at the start when you're setting your goals and someone says, I'm 96 kilos right now and I want to be 85 kilos in 8 weeks. You go, all right, that's going to take a lot of effort, right? That's dropping 11 kilos in 8 weeks. You're really going to have to be on your game, and we're going to track you every week because you need to lose 1.2 kilos a week to make that happen. Are you up to go really hard? Yes, I'm up to go really hard. All right, it's good. Here's what I expect out of you to make that happen. You're going to need to fill out a food diary every week. You're going to need to do meal prep. I'm going to need to see a minimum of this many minutes of exercise. You might have to get up early and do it before, blah, blah, blah. Each week, if you're not on track for what that is, or you don't do the work, we're going to develop some consequences, whatever they might be. And you can get cheeky with them if you get to know them. Now, what I want you to think about is, what are the possible things that could get in the way of you reaching the 85 kilos between now and November, or whenever the 8 weeks is? Okay, busy at work, the kids, parties, birthday party, my anniversary's on the 4th of September, whatever it might be. Okay, how are we going to deal with that? All right, so, and this is the important question. Right now, in your life, how important is it for you to reach 85 kilos right now? Let them sit with a little bit. Give them a bit of silence. Make sure you define 1 and 10. So 1 out of 10 means, it'd be nice. 10 out of 10 is, it is the most important thing in my life right now. Nothing else matters. Where do you stage it? Now, if they give you a 5, 6, I'd be a little bit worried about this goal. I'd even adjust it and say, okay, what if we adjusted that from 85 to 90 to 88? Would you be happy with 88? If they say yeah, they'd be happy with 88. 88 is a much better goal because you'd rather be successful in the 8 weeks. If they say, yeah, I'd be happy with 88. What about 90? What about if you hit 90? They go, no, I wouldn't be happy with 90. Don't want to still be in the 90. So what about 89.9? You know what? I'd love to get under 90 kilos. All right, so our real goal is 6 kilos. Redo the process. That'll give you lots on the importance. And then each week, okay, our goal this week is we're going to do a food diary. I want you to keep a food diary of everything that goes in and set you up on MyFitnessPal. This is what you're going to do. I don't really care whether you hit the numbers every week. I just want recordings of everything. How important is it to you to do this goal and enter all your food for the week? Oh, kind of important. Well, for me and my expectations for us to hit your goal, this is the most important thing you can do. I'd rather you skip a session in the gym and spend time filling out your food diary. Okay, is that important? So how important is it to you? It's like a 9. Perfect. All right, my next question is, how confident are you that it's going to get done? Good question. 0 out of 10 means it's definitely not going to get done. 10 out of 10 is there's no chance I stuff this up. I've got this covered. Now, the cool thing is if someone enters a 10 out of 10 in that little box there and says to me, I'm a 10 out of 10, I want to make them gamble on it. Because you're only really a 10 out of 10 if you're prepared to gamble big. So my favorite gamble was, okay, so if you're a 10 out of 10 confident, that means there's 0 chance you mess this up. That means you bring me in 7 days of diary between now and next week. And if you don't have those 7 days of diary filled out, ready to rock and roll, you're going to drop down to your undies and you're going to run out on the street and do a blocky in your undies. They go, no, that's stupid. I'm not doing that. Well, then you're not really a 10 out of 10, are you? Because if you're a 10 out of 10, you'd take that bet. You wouldn't care because you know you're doing it. So if you're not a 10, what are you? I'm an 8. 8's a good number. I'm happy with 8. My question is, where's your 2 points of doubt? Where do you think this might go wrong during the week? I'm going out for dinner on Friday night. I think it might be hard to enter my food from dinner. Oh, awesome. Where are you going? Let's look at the menu. Okay, let me teach you how to guesstimate what's in your meal. But you can troubleshoot some stuff there. I guarantee you guys, if you do these 5 things before you start with the client, and you do this every week, and then you redo this every 8 to 10 weeks, your clients will be so much more dialed in, focused, and better clients, and they're likely to stick around longer. So that's huge. But that's what you can do before you get started. Now let's talk about what else you can do from a retention perspective. Usually I give you a bit of time to write some of that stuff down, but you can always pause the video. So one thing to think about is if you've got a really good client, let's say they do 3 PT sessions with you a week, right? Let's call that they're with you for an hour and a half. Let's say they then do 4 other half-hour workouts during the week. That means they're doing another 2 hours of exercise. And most people will eat between 30 and 44 meals in a week. And then the rest of the time they're on their own. So the time they're doing exercise is about 3.5 hours. And if there's 168 hours in the week, which there is, and you minus 3.5 hours, you're going to get to 164.5 hours left on their own. In that time, they need to make between 30 and 44 decisions as to what they're going to eat. So my argument is, what a client does when they're with you versus what they do when they're not with you pales in insignificance. What a client does when they're not with you is massive. And so the question is, what you do during a session definitely matters. There's no doubt about that. But what you do outside of sessions is going to have an outsized effect on the results that you get out of a client. And so one thing that I talk about with clients is how do you contact them between sessions? I generally work off, you don't want to go more than 48 hours without some kind of contact with each client. So it's 2 days. By the third day, you want a bit of contact. So things that you can use is you've got SMS. You definitely want to check in with clients. Be careful not to ask them how sore they are or encourage soreness, because we all know soreness is not a good indicator of how well you've worked. All soreness is an indicator of is whether you've done something differently, which isn't great in terms of results. So ask them if they're sore, sure, but don't say, oh, wow, that must have been a good workout. I think us as PTs, we too much encourage people to be sore when at the end of the day, soreness is not the indicator of whether what they're doing is working. And then you definitely want to do your confirmations. Don't ever make your confirmations, hey, just confirming you're going to be with me at this time. Don't ever use language like that. You always want to make it so that you're able to say, hey, can't wait to see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Super excited to give you an awesome workout and follow on from what we did last week. I used to love doing things specifically. So, let's say, this last week I trained a girl called Neve, and we did some deadlifts. She hasn't done deadlifts in ages. She loves deadlifts, and we had to back down the weight because it was her first one. She's a strong girl. She usually deadlifts 80 kilos, which is pretty serious. But we dropped it back down to 45 and repped out 45 just to see how it feels. She pulled up all right, so I'm going to bump it up to 60 this week and see how she looks after doing a few warm-up sets and things like that. So what my message to her for our session tomorrow might be, hey Neve, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Was walking through the gym earlier, had a chat to the barbell, and he told me that 60 kilos for a deadlift is going to go up really easy. Can't wait to see her. She'll have a bit of a laugh. It's kind of cute. One of the other guys loved leg pressing, and I used to send messages like, hey mate, had a chat to the leg press today. He told me you were a massive pussy. See you tomorrow. Things like that. Make it fun. Make it interesting. SMS, good tool. Calls. I know most people don't call much each other these days. I would just sporadically, very irregularly, just do a call to check in with clients. A lot of them won't even answer the phone, so just leave a really awesome voice message. But I think doing a call is just a really nice way of saying, hey, I'm thinking about you. And clients really appreciate those. You can do coffee get-togethers, or, a walk, or, a shake, or whatever it might be. Could be something that you do once a month or something like that clients could do as a group. And it could be something informal. Hey guys, this Sunday I'm grabbing coffee, down at Broadbeach and going to take a walk along Hedges Ave. Anyone who's up to come along, love to have you there. Setting off at 8 o'clock. Have a great weekend. That could be a really good one. I think email is a very underutilized tool. If you don't have a database of your clients, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. I really think you need 4 databases. I think you need database 1, which I call prospects, which is all the people you've ever spoken to and got their email and phone number. You should always be adding people to that list. Whether they're interested in PT or not, you want to add people to that. And an easy way to add people to that is just say, hey, I send out an informational newsletter every month. Do you want me to shoot it out to you? Chuck me your email, pop them on that list. If they express at any time any interest in personal training or weight loss or fitness or anything like that, then you put them on the hot prospects list. And they're people who might start personal training soon. Then you've got your current clients list, and then you've got your ex-clients list. Now, you should have these 4 databases set up on a spreadsheet so that you can communicate with them. And I think monthly is pretty important. Weekly newsletters are fantastic for your current clients, maybe a little less frequently for some of the others, but sending them out some good info. I always think good info to send is a bit of a story, a bit of a technical exercise tip or an article about exercise, and a recipe. Really easy. 3 things to send in an email. And then, to the people who are the prospects or the hot prospects, you can send out an offer like, we've got the 8-week challenge coming up to everybody. Anyone who's interested, let me know. I'm running a seminar on this night. Come on down. Anything like that would be good. Excuse me. Then you got the social medias. And with your socials, your Facebooks, your Instas, your Twitters, TikToks, whatever's, one thing that I think is really important to do is use them effectively in a really professional manner. So some things you can do is do posts, tag your clients into them, make sure they're posts about things your clients would be interested in, whatever they may be. If you see something, an article or something like that that your clients might like, don't tag them on the page in that article. Send it to them in a direct message so that they get it privately is probably really important. Taking photos of you and your clients in groups and tagging your clients in that is massive. So, for example, if you get 5 of your clients together, you take a photo with you and your 5 clients, you tag them all in a comment, and a little bit of a comment spree goes on. What will end up happening is not only will that go to all those 5 clients, but those 5 clients, it'll show 100 of their friends. So that one post will get seen by 500 people. And the chances are that of each of those 100 clients' friends, so 500 people, that there's clients that think they want to do personal training, the percentage there is probably going to... Sorry, cut out. So what you want to do is you want to send out that post so that all 500 of your friends see it. And then what they'll end up doing is when they want to make a decision about personal training, they're most likely to go to their friend's personal trainer than to check something out online. And shout outs. When people achieve things, putting those achievements up on socials, providing your client is cool with it, is really important. So those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 communication channels, you don't need to use all of them all the time, but I'd highly recommend using some of them. All right, and then finally, what you can do in sessions, I think, is really important. Now, when you're talking about in sessions with your client, there's a million things you should be doing, like carrying the water bottle and the towel for your client, setting up all the equipment. I never let any clients load or unload weights. We used to have a running joke in the studio. If a client was unloading or loading weights, I'd yell out to the trainer, "You're fired," because they're not doing their job. As a joke, obviously, but in session, something that I try and get away from with clients as much as possible is worrying about time for sessions. Is what they're really there for is results. They're not there for time. And the best analogy I had given to me was a friend of mine said, he's telling me he had a really bad toothache, and one of his good mates is a dentist, and he went to his good mate, the dentist, and said, "Mate, that tooth that you looked at last year, it's really hurting." And his mate says, "Look, you're probably going to have it out." He says, "No worries, just let's do it. When can you get me in?" He said, "I can get you in tomorrow." And he goes, "Awesome. How long is it going to take?" He's like, "I'll get it done in and out in under 15 minutes. He goes, "Oh, fantastic." He goes, "Oh, how much will it be?" And he goes, "Look, I'll do you a really good deal on it. I'll do your mate's rate, and we'll do it for $50. And he goes, $50 for 15 minutes? Are you kidding?" And the dentist goes, "Well, I can make it take longer if you like." And the point being that getting your tooth pulled is not something you want to have take longer. And you've got to remember, our clients aren't weirdos. They don't love exercise. If I went out to this gym right now and said to everybody on the floor, "Hey, if I cut the amount of time you had to exercise to get a result by half, what would you prefer to do, the shorter exercise program or the longer one?" You weirdos would do the longer one because you like exercise. Almost everyone out there is taking the short option. And I guarantee your clients are the same. So don't be talking about time, talk about sessions and things like that. We'll go through that in the sales process. Number one thing in session that I think is super duper important is focus. So just a quick one, a big bugbear of mine. You can't watch TVs, you can't be looking around the room. And if you're training somebody of the opposite sex and a good looking person walks past and you check them out, that's a massive hit to that client's confidence. You cannot get caught peeking at a good looker that goes past. Any good sorts that go past, male, female, I don't care. You can't get caught doing that. You've got to be 100% focused on your client. That is massive. The biggest question that I think everybody needs to ask every single one of their clients every time they walk in is, what do you need from me today? I think that's a massive question, because what they want from you and what they need might be two different things. Some clients might need a hug or a chat or an easier workout or a stretch or flogging or progress and results or reassurance or whatever it might be. But assessing that when a client walks in is massive. I had a client that trained with me. She's one of my early ones. She lost 60 kilos, did amazingly, ran 2 marathons, awesome chick. But I knew after training her for 7, 8 years, I knew what she needed from me by what time she showed up. If she showed up 5 minutes early and came in and warmed up, I knew she was ready for a beating today. She wanted to work out hard. If she showed up right on time, she needed a few minutes just to gather herself because her morning had been hectic and everything was all over the place. If she showed up 2 minutes late, it meant that she was a bit disorganized, which meant that when she left, she didn't have food prepped, all that kind of stuff ready. So she needed a bit of time to chat about getting all of that organized in her life. And if she showed up 5 minutes late, I knew that she didn't want to be there, and most of the time what she needed was a cry and a hug. So sometimes I'd have to exercise her really hard for the first 5 minutes just so I could break it down a little bit, and then she'd have a bit of a cry. Do not do that in front of everybody on the floor. You want to make sure you do that somewhere private. And then once she had cry, she felt better and everything was good. But that's a really valuable thing. Knowing how hard to work a client, I think, is massive. So spending a bit of time really assessing where your client wants to work. And I always worked off the strategy that if my client wanted this, I'd give them just a little bit more. Another 1 or 2 out of 10 harder than what they want. And the reason being is I want them to walk away going, man, if Jeff wasn't there, I wouldn't have worked that hard today. I'm so glad he's my trainer. The 80-20 rule of talking and listening, 80% of the chatter should be from your clients, 20% from you. You should be doing 80% of the listening. If you're talking 80% of the time, it means the session's about you, not about them. So doing more listening is really, really important. On the back of that, I always like to ask, what did you learn about your client today at the end of a session? The answer should be lots. And the other question is, what did they learn about you? If they learn lots about you, then you spend too much time talking about you. They should learn a little bit about you. I think it's important to give a little bit of yourself, but most